So the other side of this battle says that the president is just manufacturing this crisis. That line continued today in heavy rotation. Watch.
As a shutdown, another manufactured crisis courtesy of President Trump.
He's a reality show producer, and he's producing this.
This is a manufactured crisis.
So you get the idea. In this moment from CNN reporter Jim Acosta suggested that all is calm at the border where he was today, despite what you hear.
As we're walking along here, we're not seeing any kind of imminent danger. There are no migrants trying to rush toward this fence here in the McAllen, Texas area. No sign of the national emergency that the president has been talking about. As a matter of fact, it's pretty tranquil down here.
So that report was met with a lot of pushback, including this from Trump campaign manager Brad Parscale, who tweeted a sentiment that was actually shared by a lot of people on social media today. I would like to thank Jim Acosta for pointing out how peaceful, safe, and secure it is at the part of the border that has a wall. Later tonight, my exclusive interview with Brad Parscale, who had plenty more to say about the wall and the president's numbers. Do you believe by the time the campaign rolls around, we will have a wall?
It's not about just a wall. It's about border security.
Also, how he is building what he calls the biggest voter outreach effort that has ever been constructed in presidential politics for the Trump 2020 campaign. He also says that in their internal polls, he believes that the wall fight is helping the president to move higher, in fact, to the highest point in their polls in his presidency. But first tonight, Marc Thiessen, American Enterprise Institute scholar and Fox News contributor, and Richard Goodstein, Democratic strategist and former Clinton campaign advisor. Gentlemen, great to have both of you with us.
Good to be with you.
Washington, D.C., in your city tonight.
Welcome.
Thank you. So, Richard, let me start with you. You know, how are Democrats doing in this debate right now, based on that back and forth?
Well, certainly, if the polls are any indication, the majority of the public blames the president for his position. They think the government shouldn't be held hostage. I will say this: we have really this semantic dispute between a wall and then fence and barrier, right? And it's kind of silly. You have all these hundreds of thousands of public employees who are out there, you know, with their credit at risk and food on the table and so forth. And the fact is, in 2013, as you know, every single Democratic senator and 14 Republicans voted for $8 billion of barrier fencing, call it what you will. And I think that's where the Democrats are vexed is, Mr. President, show us precisely what you want. When he talks, it's like wall in one sentence, barrier, steel slats.
You know who it's a silly semantic debate for?
Yeah.
People in that building
Couldn't
behind me, and folks who talk about these things. In America, I believe that it is very clear. They're saying, get over yourself. We don't care what you want to call it. Just secure the border.
Absolutely.
This is an issue that I think most Americans actually really agree on.
Right, and I think, again, what this immigration bill did in 2013 was a commitment to secure the border. Tens of thousands of Border Patrol people, watchtowers, drones, the whole bit. And the fact is, this notion of Democrats being for open borders is really not right, because again, Obama was called a deporter-in-chief by the Hispanic community.
I think Democrats sound like they're getting nervous about being portrayed that way, and maybe they're coming off that way because they're not willing to negotiate at all on this. Mark?
No, that's exactly right. I mean, and look, not only did that bill require 700 miles of fencing, it actually said that no illegal immigrants could get a green card and a path to citizenship until the wall was completed, until the fence was completed. President Trump has already made the concession on the wall. He said he's shifted to steel slats, a fence. He sent Mike Pence and said, let's do $2.5 billion instead of $5.7, and they dismissed it. And he said to Nancy Pelosi yesterday, apparently, he said, look, if I agree to what you're saying, which is let's open the government and we have separate negotiations on the border, will you then agree to fund the wall, any money for the wall? And she said no. So right now the president...
Why is that, Richard? Why'd she say no?
Well, again, I think it's this whole wall thing. Again, how many hundreds of times in the campaign trail did he say, build the wall? Incidentally,
he said, he said today, hold on. The day before, like, I don't care what you call it.
Well, but he asked the term wall, and that connotes 25. Well, it makes a difference to her because what he campaigned on was 25-foot high concrete wall.
So if he goes on record, why doesn't she say to him, well, Mr. President, I'm fine with border security, but I will not build a concrete wall that's 2,000 miles long, which basically can't be done anyway.
And I think if the president were smart, he would say to Mitch McConnell, call up that bill that passed the Senate in 2013. 13 with 14 Republicans. And let's get a vote on that. That will call her bluff. Because if she's really opposed to border security, then she will be against it. The fact is, I think that would have passed had John Boehner brought it up back then.
The president said as much today that if he doesn't get some kind of agreement, he's going to declare a national emergency. And there's, the Army Corps of Engineers is one of the places where they're kind of beating the bushes for money, seeing if they can move some things around to get started.
So I think that would be a mistake, though I understand he's using it as a negotiating tactic, because he's basically telling Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, you actually don't have control of this situation. You cannot deny me the wall. We can do it the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. And if it's a negotiating tactic, it's smart. As an actual practical policy, it's probably not a good idea, because that emergency was intended for things like 9/11 and Katrina. There is, by the way, a crisis at the border, because I mean, the Washington Post said just the other day it's a bona fide crisis. There are more immigrants coming over, unaccompanied minors. The detention centers are completely overwhelmed. So he's got a point, and he probably legally could do it. But here's the problem: he's gaining the moral high ground right now. This is exactly what Democrats would want him to do, because right now he's seeming reasonable. He's offering compromises. He's going to the border, talking about border security, and the Democrats are just sitting there saying no, 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 no. Once he invokes emergency powers, all of a sudden the conversation changes from the intransigence of the Democrats and what's happening on the border to abuse of power, to a lawsuit, to a fight over his powers.
A real super quick, Richard.
He's going to have a problem in the courts, because Congress specifically said, here's funding, which incidentally the administration hasn't spent, but not for a wall. And then to go ahead and say, well, I'm building the wall anyway, that's where you have the kind of separation of powers issue that really I'm not sure how strong footing he has in the courts.
We'll pick it up. Thank you very much, guys.
Sure.
Good to see you both.
Thanks.
So coming up next, the media paints an economic hellscape as the shutdown